All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're listening to this video. Hope you're doing good. What we're about to work on, as you've probably seen on the previous video, is applying the circle equation formula. And so the formula, remember the center is always at HK, and with the center, you plug it into your formula here, so it's going to be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And so as we look at that, applying what we know from the information given in number 1, write the standard equation. So this is the standard equation right here up top, okay, of each circle, and then graph the circle. So as we look, the center is at 0, 0, so I'm going to write down x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. Oop, I didn't mean to put k actually. I meant to put 0 because this is h and this is k. Is equal to the radius squared, okay? Now, how would I like to see it as a final answer? I want you to simplify that all up. And what I mean by that is this. X minus 0 is just x, so I'm going to put x squared. Y minus 0 is just y, so I'm going to put y squared. And then it's equal to 49, okay? And so from there, you can go ahead and take your center at 0, 0. And I would like to see 4 other points plotted out on your graph. The one that's above, the one that's below, the one that's to the right, and the one that's to the left. If you want to freehand draw it from there, you can. If you are a perfectionist on your test, if you would like a compass, I can definitely give you a compass. We'll see if my graph is accurate. Oh, did I miscount? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Huh, must not be, the grid must not be exactly accurate. But that's what I would like to see. Freehand draw it, that's completely fine with me. And then just connect the 4 points there. All right, so as we look at number 2, we have h and k. And so I plug that into the equation. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to the radius squared, okay? Now, obviously, I can't really simplify these terms up any further, but I can simplify h squared, so I would like to see this. That's the equation I would be looking for if I wanted to describe the center at 4, 3 with a radius of 8. Now, looking at our picture here, we're looking at 4, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, radius of 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to guess 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, if that's the case, 7, 8. Make sure you show the extra grid marks on the outside, and I can show this one up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right there. Okay, and then something just like this, where you go ahead and draw in the circle. Ooh, missed that one. Yeah, that was pretty bad. But yeah, something to that effect I would be okay with, and hopefully you can draw better circles than I can. So let's move on to the next one and see how this one differs from the previous two. Now this next one here, we are told that the radius is a fraction. Okay, obviously a little different than the first two. So I'm going to put down h and k again, and we'll go ahead and write down x minus h. Notice how I use that negative value, and we haven't had a negative value yet. Plus y minus k squared is equal to the radius squared. Okay. Now, in order to simplify all this up, make sure that the double negative is no longer present. I don't like to see that. Your English teacher doesn't want to see that either. We're going to put that down. Plus y minus 4 squared is equal to 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. Okay. Now I'm going to be honest. Where do most of the mistakes occur when you're transferring the equation to the graph? It's not the center point. Oop, I see a mistake I made up here. It's not the center point. It's the radius length. Remember, the radius is a half. It's not a fourth. So don't use this fourth here. because that, can throw some people off. So if we look here, -3, 1, 2, 3, +4, 1, 2, 3, 4, placing my point right there, I'm going to use a half. So I go up a half, over a half, down a half, and left a half. And then we just go ahead and connect all those points there. Something like that. Okay, that's what we're looking for. All right, so what's the difference between the first three and the fourth one? Well, the first three didn't have a radical in it. The fourth one does. So here's what I'm going to do. H and K, y minus h squared plus, why did I write y? X minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to radical 10 squared. Okay? So we simplify up the first two terms here. I think those are easy enough to do. Hopefully you've already done that. Okay? Now, if I go ahead and square radical 10, what does that give me? Well, radical 10 times radical 10 just gives me 10. You can double check that in your calculator, but you'll see it gives you just 10. Now, I know that my center is at -2, -5. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's my center point. From there, the radius, remember, is radical 10. Now, you will need to plug that into your calculator, and it's hard to be real accurate when you have a radical that's not a perfect square. So if I take that, the square root of 10 is approximately 3.2. So anything greater than just 3. So if I plug that in, 1, 2, 3.2, just slightly greater than 3. 1, 2, 3.2. 1, 2, 3.2. 1, 2, 3.2. Okay, and that should be your circle right there. Okay? So, that's how you use it when you have a radical involved. All right? Now, we're going to move to the back side, and on the back side, you're not going to be given the radius length. And the question is going to be, how do we figure out the radius length? Well, what you're basically looking at when you look at number 5, you have a center point, 0, 0, and a point on the circle, 3, 4. So if I was to graph this, it would look something like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And it probably, now know that this is your radius length. It probably goes something like that. Okay? If I was to graph it. And so as a result, what can we do with these points? Well, if you remember from the video, remember that this was the x and y value that's on the circle, and the center was hk. So if we actually plug this back into our equation, our standard form equation for a circle, which would be something like this, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals the radius squared, we should be able to solve for the radius within that equation to figure out what the radius is, and then you can plug it back into your formula. Okay? So, if I do that, 3 minus 0 is 3, and then 3 squared is going to be 9. 4 minus 0 is 4. 4 squared is 16. We get 25 when we add those two together, and then we square root 25, and we get a radius length of 5. Okay? So my equation is going to be this. X minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared is equal to 5 squared. And then I'll want to simplify it. X squared plus y squared is equal to 25. Okay? So that's how you go ahead and set up that equation. Now, how do you graph it? Well, I wish I could leave that up there, but I'm going to have to make this go down. Actually, you know what? I'll make it smaller. Can I go down? Okay. And so center's at 0, 0, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And remember, our point that was on the circle was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got to make sure that it passes through that point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So here's the circle. Ooh, that was bad. That was even worse. I shouldn't even try drawing circles. Hopefully you guys are better than I am. So again, test or quiz, if you want to borrow a compass, you can do that. If you would, I would actually pause your computer at this point and see if you can do the next one your own, which I don't think is too difficult. See if you can do it, and then replay it and see if you can get the same answer I did. So moving on, if I do the same thing I did in the previous problem, HK, X, Y, it's X minus H squared plus Y minus K squared is equal to the radius squared. Okay? And so this is going to give us negative 4 squared. Now negative times negative is a positive, so it's actually 4 squared is 16. Negative 6 plus 4 ends up being a negative 2 squared, positive 4. Okay, and then from there we get 20, and the radius is going to be the square root of 20. Okay. Now, this is kind of like number 4 that we had on the front side, so don't freak out. It's going to be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to the radius squared. Okay. And then in the end, make sure we simplify this up and simplify this up over here. X minus 3 squared plus y plus 4 squared is equal to 20. Okay. Now, the square root of 20 is probably going to be something between 4 and 5. Square root of 20, 4.5. Huh. So this is approximately 4.5. And so if I go negative 3, 1, 2, 3, and go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go 4.5 from there. Oh, I just realized something. Don't do that. We want to start with 3, negative 4. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then from there you want to go 4.5 units. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Okay? And so there you go. There's that circle. Okay? Now, looking at the next part, we are given actually 2 points on opposite sides of the circle. Now, when I say opposite sides of the circle, the main thing that I want you to think through when you have this, opposite sides of the circle, is that we have points on the opposite sides of the circle. Think diameter. Okay? So basically, we have this point at negative 1, 4, negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have one at 6, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then positive 2. Okay? Oh, there we go. Now, between these 2 points, this is the diameter. And so what are we missing? Well, we're missing the center, right? And we're missing the radius. So how do we figure out both the center and the radius? Well, let's start with the center. The center can actually be determined by identifying the middle point. It's got to be somewhere in there. Now, the middle point, we go back to chapter 1. Your midpoint formula is going to be x sub 2 plus x sub 1 over 2. Remember the average of the x's. And y sub 2 plus y sub 1 over 2. All right? And so if I plug that in, we'll just keep working across the top here. Let's say this is x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. I can do 6 minus negative 1 over 2, and then I can do 2 minus 4 over 2. Oh, Why am I doing minus? Plus. Okay, we're adding those there. Okay, and so working this out, 6 minus 1 is 5 over 2, that's 2.5. Okay, and 2 plus 4 ends up giving us 6 divided by 2, that's 3. Okay, so let's see if this matches up with our line. Over 2.5, 1, 2.5, up 3. 1, 2, 3. Voila, sweet. That means that this length equals this length, radius. Okay, so as of right now, we know our equation is going to be x minus 2.5 squared plus y minus 3 squared. We still have to figure out what the radius is going to be. Now the radius, we can actually go ahead and use the same formula that we did up above. You can use this point, the center. Make a little note of that. This is the center. Okay, and you can choose either one of these points here. It does not matter. Okay, now I'm actually going to choose the first one because it's got a negative involved with it. Negatives usually make things a little bit more interesting. And so as I plug this in, this is going to be my h and my k. It's going to be x minus h squared plus y minus, not y. Okay, the y value over here was 4 minus 3 squared, y minus k squared, is equal to the radius squared. Okay, now from there, you get negative 1 minus 2.5, that is negative 3.5 squared, and you get 4 minus 3, which is 1 squared. Okay, from there, negative 3.5 squared, I'll do that with my calculator, 3.5 squared, oops, wrong button, gives us 12.25, and then 1 squared is just 1. If we add those two together, and then we square root that, that's our radius length. Okay. Now remember, if we're looking for the radius squared to plug into our equation up here, because this is the radius squared, I can just plug in this number right here. Okay. Now I do need an approximation in order to graph this, and so the square root of 13.25 is equal to 3.6 approximately. Okay. So if I go over 3.6, now this is 0.5 from here to here. I should have probably made my graph bigger, but 0.5. So I need to go over, I'll just count every half. So 1, 2, 3, and a half would be right there, but we're a little bit more than that, so I'm going to put my point right there. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and a half, a little bit more. I'm going to put my point right there. 1, 2, 3, and a half, a little bit more. Okay, you see how careful I am as I'm trying to plot those points? Make sure you're being careful as well. 1, 2, 3, and a half, a little bit more. Okay, so as a result, this will be your circle that we are looking for. Okay. All right, so hopefully that was all understandable. Make sure that your notes are filled out, and when you are done, you can go ahead and begin working on your homework. The homework should be on the website. Thank you for your attentiveness. I hope you guys have a great night, and I will see you tomorrow. Good day.